All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all honor, praise, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rach HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect scattered abroad. This is Brother Barbazal here with a lesson, and Lord willing us edifying. And this lesson will be entitled, Examine Yourselves, Whether Ye Be in the Faith. All right, and as we, are coming more and more into the end times and the eventual return of Yahushua, we have to, examine ourselves, pray, to keep ourselves into the faith, our faith strong, all right, because as, we're seeing, more and more, Israelites, selling out, becoming agents, changing the doctrine. All right, we got to make sure that, our faith is strong and, we're rooted in this thing and, we keep, in our minds, what we're in this for, right? Which is, of course, Lord's will, the eventual, salvation, to come. All right. So this is the book of Revelation 12:12. It says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth he hath but a short time. Yeah, kind. All right, and this isn't just going into, putting the sword, all right, or, persecuting, Israelites. It also goes into, what this devil will do, in order for you to veer off from the faith, veer off, from the path of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. All right. I'm gonna read that again. Revelation 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth he hath but a short time. Yeah, so this devil knoweth he hath but a short time. All right, and as we, of course, we're having this great awakening, of who we are, according to the Bible. All right, of, who this man Esau-Edom is, according to the Bible. All right, he's going to, continue to try to, infiltrate, the camps, cause brothers to err from the faith, but through the spirit and the power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. All right, we gotta, we gotta make sure we hold fast. All right, and keep our faith strong in this thing. All right, and ultimately, pray daily. All right, for the Lord to, to keep us, So this is the book of 2 Peter 3:11. It says, we can start at 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. Yeah, so the day of the Lord will be like a thief in the night. All right, and as, through the Spirit we know, and through breaking down, the prophecies, we know that day of the Lord, is coming very, very soon, within our lifetimes, right? Not, 1,000 years. All right, you ain't supposed to be thinking, being that type of spirit. All right, because, with, what's been going on with Esau advancing his technology. All right, as we're seeing the book of Matthew, the 24th chapter, play out before our very eyes. We understand, the times that we in, and we understand that, we got to fully, take advantage of this grace period. All right, because, once all hell breaks loose, during that time, all we have to depend on is, the faith that we've built up, with Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. You see? Verse 11, it says, seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? Yeah. And we're looking to be, those men of the Lord, right? Being a part of the hopeful elect, We want those, characteristics of a man of the Lord, staying spiritual as much as possible, right? Fighting the flesh, abstaining from, being carnal. All right. This is all a part of it. We don't want to be, too involved with the world, right? Being around, people, that's against Yahweh Shai, that talk against Yahweh Shai, that do things, constantly that's contrary to, what we should be doing, all right, while we in the faith. You see? Verse 12, looking for and hasten unto the coming of the day of Yahweh, wherein the heavens shall be on fire, shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. So that's going to the destruction, and we're hastening that day. All right. Not just the destruction of this place, but, to the kingdom. All right. Verse 13, nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness. All right. And we're not looking to, to live a life in this kingdom, to build up a community, buy land, do certain things that's, really long-term, investments. All right. Because, we understand, in the type of times we're in, it's getting ready to be burnt up. All right. The only investment that we're making is, that, when it comes to our faith, right, the sacrifices that we make, all right, daily, to be a servant of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, right? The book of Romans, the 12th chapter, it goes into, putting your bodies as a living sacrifice, right, as it is our, reasonable service, you see? So, what's supposed to be on the forefront of our minds is, being in this truth, right? Preaching the gospel, right? Putting out the work, right? Rehearsing the righteous acts, right? Doing the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of our ability. All right. We understand through, faith in works, right? The works followed by that faith, is how we're going to be saved, Lord willing. All right. So, this is 2 Corinthians 13:5. It says, examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how that Yahweh Shah Hamashiach is in you, except ye be reprobates. Yeah, conned with, Apostle Tahar, coining next year, the year of, going into the year of apostates, sellouts, agents, things of that nature. It's important that we constantly examine ourselves, purge out, any leaven, that we may have. All right, because, that's the way that, that's how people fall out the faith, man. Not being this thing for, filthy lucre's sake. All right. Because you have a lot of guys who's, been completely, been given over to a reprobate mind, man. Teaching that the heathen can be saved, constantly, worrying about, going into, debates, getting in these different, platforms and interviews, just making a fool of themselves, really, because it's all for nothing. It's no edification that come out of it. You're going to walk out of there, with one person still believing what he believes and the other person still believing what he believes. All right. That's why, your only focus really should just be preaching the word and drawing the elect through that way, because the elect, is going to, come up, ask questions, and believe, and, that's what this thing is all about, man. Not, debates back and forths and, things like that, because, it's really no profit out of doing that. Maybe you can make money out of it, but, that's the wrong spirit to be in. You're not supposed to, make merchandise out of the truth. The scriptures going to, buy the truth but sell it not, right? So, you ain't supposed to, make a whole bunch of money, out of, being in the truth. That's the wrong spirit to be in. And you see, them type of guys, constantly wax worse and worse, It seems like, damn near, every day, you seeing the Israelite go off. But that's a result of not being in the right spirit. All right, so this is the book of Revelation 3 and 10, because, this will be the ultimate test of our faith. So we have to constantly dwell on and meditate on, that day. Some brothers may have to be martyrs. Some brothers, family might take the C-hip. All right, your woman, might be willing to take it. All right, certain brothers may have to go for a certain period of time without, food and, things of that nature. All right, so we have to constantly dwell on, that our temptation, whatever, whatever it is for you. All right, you got to constantly think on, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai and pray that you don't give in. All right, and be faithful, until the end. All right, so Revelation 3 and 10, this is because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Yeah, kind. All right, and there's a lot of people that's going to take that C-hip. All right, we already seen, the trial runs, right, with the juice. All right, so imagine, a situation, that's much more serious. It's mandatory. All right, you won't be able to buy, sell, eat. You're going to be an outcast of society. Esau going to looking to put people to death, put people in prison. All right, so this is going to be the ultimate test of your faith, right? The hour of temptation. All right. But, that'll do it with the lesson. And, Lord willing, it was edifying. So with that, I like to just give all the honor and praise and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem, Barak HaKodash. Shalom.